What are the potential roadblocks that can sabotage your success? That's what we're going to dig into in this short training. Look, there are two big and primary areas that cause business coaches to not make it work. And I know a lot of people don't like to use the word failure, but that can happen and will happen if you don't address, and certainly if you let these two areas major roadblocks. Oftentimes, people think that some of the issues that are going to be the reasons why somebody can't be successful are, working with the client and in fulfillment and those things. While those are, can be there, they're not the big things. Here's the big things, and I'm going to share with you exactly how to solve this problem so that you don't face this. And you know what? Maybe you're dealing with this now. Maybe you're on our coaching team with Business Coach Mastery, and maybe you have kind of succumbed to this, and you may have done this accidentally, which happens all the time. We're going to work through that. Two big things. The first one, this is going to sound like, well, sure, never starting. That's right. One of the biggest roadblocks we see is those they're excited on the front end. They're getting their tools or resources. They're getting all set up, get their business cards, or do all these different things, but they never actually start. Why? Well, one, distraction. Just a tough time not staying focused on the things that matter the most to get momentum. In the very beginning, you want to have what we call low-hanging fruit, quick win type of mindset. What happens, though, is oftentimes in the planning phases, we think way too big in the very beginning. Like, for instance, if you're going to go build a house, right? You're not building the whole thing at the same time. You're actually starting with the things that most people will never see. You start with the stuff that's boring, gritty, dirty, hard, right? But you're doing it one step at a time. So to avoid getting stuck in this area where we don't get started is that we've got to make sure we have a quick wins, small action type of mentality to get moving forward. But here's what we end up telling ourselves, and this happens all the time. We'll go to trainings, and like in our community that we have, when the support that we give coaches, lots of training opportunity, different calls, masterminds, and online groups, and you name it. And we need those. Those are super important. I subscribe to the fact that you cannot go into business coaching successfully alone. It's very arduous and very difficult to do. So community matters. Here's the problem. Too many. We consume too much. We listen to, podcast after podcast after podcast. We read book after book after book. And again, you do need to do those within reason. So if those things if they're the main pieces of the time and bandwidth that you have, that's an indicator that you're not getting started. And then we fall into the mindset of, well, I'm going to do this today, but next week I'm going to X. Next month I'm going to Y. And we'll begin to tell ourselves that this is the right path. And while pieces of that is true, here's how we know that it's not working: when you're not engaging with the business community, right? And so that whole never starting thing you can get weeks down the road and you not realize, man, it's been 6 weeks that I've embarked on this journey and I've not picked up the phone. I've not gone to a networking event. I've not phoned a friend kind of deal, whatever. And that is a bedrock of sabotage. So you got to avoid that. Much better. Here's a key to understand, and I know for some people it's very difficult to wrap their brain around this, but it's much better for you to take a mindset of taking imperfect action. I'm not saying or suggesting to be unprofessional. I'm suggesting to take imperfect action. You're better off as you're just getting you're going through training, reading books and podcasts, and you're doing all these different things. You're better off to consistently start going, at worst case, go weekly to your Chamber of Commerce networking event. If that's all you did, all you're doing there is you're taking a step of action to get out of your comfort zone and start moving in direction. It's one of the easiest things to do, requires hardly no effort. They're in every single market. And there's all kinds of different business networking events. And I'm not saying that may be that end up being your main strategy for building relationships and adding value and that's your lead gen. I'm suggesting that what it'll do is that mentally, it's going to give you the ability to just get past that first step. You go 2 or 3 times, you're going to have some of that quick win mentality, and that monkey off your back kind of idea is now done. Taking the next step is going to be significantly more simple than not, because the longer you wait, the harder it goes. It's just kind of like fitness and weight loss. You know what I mean? You have this idea, you kind of get started or whatever, 2 or 3 weeks into it, you kind of get lazy with it. A few more weeks get into it, you kind of fall off the wagon. You had some birthday cake and you had a couple of things of pizza, all the things. And before you know it, you're like, I don't know. And you start to wane your enthusiasm, and it's real. And it happens. So that first one is never starting. The second one, a huge issue, is not making the decision and the choice on what strategies that you're going to use for lead generation. And honestly, there's a lot of different strategies. I say a lot. There's a number of different strategies, and technically, well, not even technically, all of them work, and all of them work very well. But the question is, which ones are the best fit for you? So like in our process with our coaches and our coaching team, the very beginning, we're sitting down with coaches and just kind of discussing background, gift mix, skill sets, desire, like what makes the most sense. But even with that said, a lot of coaches struggle with deciding because they see all of them as a potential opportunity, potentially doing workshops, going to networking events, doing joint venture opportunities with those who already have business paying clients like CPAs and financial planners and digital marketing companies and so on. Getting connected with your circle of influence, your sphere of influence, people who already know you, who already like you, who already trust you. And so what happens is, one, we stall, which points back to our never getting started point. We stall because this week we're excited about going this track, so we kind of dabble there, and then next week we see, you know what? I saw one of our guys in our community doing this over here. I could do that, and we go over here, we start doing that, we dabble there, and all of a sudden this turns into days, turns into weeks, turns into months, and we've kind of started to try to touch all those, in that you just can't do it. So what do? Well, one, you've got to make the decision and understand for yourself that what I choose right now may not be what I stick with long term. And that's okay, because that's just a part of discovery. That's going to help you to make the decision to get forward progress. So we encourage, and I encourage typically, 2 strategies, no more than 3 for sure, because that's what's going to put you in that dabble-like state. When you're in a dabble-like state, guess what you get? Dabble-like results. That's going to impact your emotions, your mindset, all kinds of things. Well, much better for you to embrace. And again, if bandwidth is a problem, you need to take a peek at that and go, all right, since bandwidth is an issue, what makes the most sense? Well, one of those, I can just tell you if bandwidth's an issue, visiting those networking groups, because those are already going on. You're just physically showing up. That's it. And connecting with people. The second one is, and one of my favorite, is your circle of influence. We have a framework that we use. It helps those people who already know us and like it. Could be family, friends, past colleagues, whatever. We give them a picture of what we're doing. We let them see some of our tools, our software. We ask for some input and some feedback on our bio. We make that an interactive process, and we're going to sit down and ask 2 questions from them. That's not 2, that's 4. 2 questions from them. One, who in your network that you know that I need to know to expand my network, right? When you ask that question, that's a badge of honor. People are often endeared to those that are wanting to grow, and we want to champion them. The second question you ask is, who in your network owns a business that maybe they're struggling, they're in a challenged state, or maybe they're doing okay, but they'd like to level up, but they don't know what to do. Do you know a business? You probably know a business. I know many businesses. So do you. Everyone knows a business or 2. You're often going to get that. So that's a great one to start with as well, because you're not having to face these people don't know me. They already know you. But the bigger point, and I would argue before we move on from that circle of influence should be something that you're doing forever, because people are always entering into your circle. You've got people that will be here in a year from now that are not here today. You just don't know them. There could be a number of reasons why you get to know them that way, okay? And so the biggest point, though, is you got to choose. Sitting in a zone of just stalling and staring and trying to choose, that's never going to solve anything. You're better off just, even if it feels a little clunky, even if it's like, I don't know, you're better off, at worst case, again, go to some of those networking events just to get you into active motion. You're going to hear, and what's going to happen to that, you're going to hear businesses talk. You're going to hear some engagement. It's going to give you ideas and inspiration. Again, you may not stick with that. You might end up doing something totally different, but that's going to give you progress. So there's your 2 biggest roadblocks. And by the way, even coaches who get to, it's a plateau state, around 5 clients or so, it's a season to where They're working with their clients, they're problem solving, they're doing all this exciting, it's feeling good. That can even be a distraction that can lessen the activity, that can plug a hole, or excuse me, punch a hole into progress. So you've got to get started. Don't risk just stalling and sitting. And you've got to make a choice on what strategies that you're going to do to build relationships, add value, solve problems where some of those folks have an opportunity for you to work with them and help them grow their business. Don't know where you are in your coaching journey, or maybe you've been thinking about coaching for a very long time. Maybe you've done it for free. Maybe you've helped others just ad hoc here and there because you love serving people, you love the purpose that it gives you, and you've had this idea kind of like an impregnation for quite some time, but you don't have the resources, you don't have the tools, you don't exactly know how does all that work. Would love to invite you to have a conversation about that. You can go to businesscoachmastery.com. There's some information that you can get there. You can schedule a quick call with our team. We can just show you exactly what we do, giving seasoned professionals a done-for-you business coaching practice. That way you can determine if it's worth learning more about or not. Hope this has added value today. Take care.